Коллеги, добрый день. Начинаем малый форум по патентной аналитике и международная конференция Роспатента для нас самое значимое событие для того, чтобы представить наш прогресс, представить то, чего мы достигли за прошедший год. И мы в рамках международной конференции проводим малый форум, который будет иметь довольно сложную структуру. До обеда у нас будут выступления с докладами, в качестве выступающих будут представлены все руководители направлений проектного офиса FIPS, а также наши друзья из сингапурского патентного ведомства, это такое же консалтинговое подразделение, которое создано и успешно функционирует в орбите сингапурского патентного ведомства. За этот год мы нашу деятельность оформили как фабрику патентной аналитики, мы поменяли брендирование, у нас теперь везде звучит фабрика патентной аналитики, и поэтому мы в наших выступлениях представим три разных взгляда на то, как эта фабрика устроена и как она довольно эффективно работает. В качестве выступающих будут три руководителя направлений. Во-первых, это Николай Попов, это мой первый заместитель и заведующий производством, который, собственно, и организует все зрелые процессы на фабрике патентной аналитики. Он расскажет, как она устроена, как мы обеспечиваем качество и какие дополнительные активности мы ведем. За ним будет выступать Федор Батанов, это руководитель бизнес-направления проектного офиса FIPS. Главное наше преимущество и главная наша особенность, то, что мы делаем с патентной аналитикой, это углубленный технический анализ. И Федор в своем выступлении расскажет, что же это такое и каким образом мы подходим, когда мы хотим очень детально, очень глубоко проанализировать разные технологии, сопоставить их друг с другом и так далее. Третье выступление проектного офиса будет руководитель направления по продажам Андрей Лаенко. Он расскажет, как мы позиционируем наши продукты, что у нас есть нового и вообще, что такое коммерциализация технологий, потому что это в последний год стало основным фокусом внимания для нашего развития, нашей эволюции и формирования новых продуктов и сервисов. Затем выступление наших коллег, как я уже сказал, это Джин Куан Хуан, наш коллега из Сингапурского патентного ведомства. И для того, чтобы это было совсем очевидно, что это наши коллеги и близкие друзья, с которыми мы ведем кооперацию. Я вот здесь специально принес тарелку из сингапурского фарфора, которую в прошлом году нам коллеги из Сингапура привезли. Мы договорились, что в этом году мы поедем к ним обратно с визитом, и мы уже начали готовить русские сувениры, но, к сожалению, вот ситуация с болезнями не позволяет нам это сделать. И хотя мы с коллегами планируем в следующем году все-таки найти возможность провести глобальную конференцию по патентной аналитике в Сингапуре. Она называется Global Patent Analytics Conference. Наши выступления будут выступления коллег по времени 20 минут.
Every presentation will take 20 minutes, and after that we will have time for several questions. You can ask questions in chat. We will structure all of them. When there will be questions regarding the specific talk, we will ask them right away, but if some questions are more general, we will consolidate them, and later on we will answer such questions at the end of this section. If some questions are left unanswered, don't worry, we will have them, the list of questions prepared, and anyway, on our YouTube channel, we will provide all the answers. I will show you this small tennis rocket. I will show this red part of the rocket to speakers when they have just 5 minutes left. When it's just 1 minute left before the end of the speech, I will show our speakers this black part of the rocket. And the same will be all the speakers know about this signs. I'm asking the speakers to speak not too fast, because there are interpreters working and they translate from English into Russian and from Russian into English. Dear colleagues, thank you very much for your attention. Right now I'd like to give the floor to my good friend, head of IPOS International, Dixon Soar. You have the floor, Dixon.
Видимо, затруднения со связью. Мы тогда попросим Диксона выступить перед выступлением Джинхуана.
We'll ask Dixon to have the floor before the presentation of Jinhuan. He will also talk about his understanding of patent analytics, which is the main topic for today. Before I give the floor to Nikolai Popov, I also want to show you a couple of my own slides. They are not a fully fledged presentation, but they will help you to understand the context that we are talking about today. In the first half of the day, we'll have presentations, and after that, we'll have a round table. We're not going to talk about products there. We're not going to talk about our advantages, but we will discuss challenging problems which are related to different areas of patent analytics usage. First topic, why do we need patent analytics? Right now, we have two views on that. First of all, the company needs to understand what's going on in the world in the sphere of its interests, for example, for choosing investment decisions, for analyzing its strategy. After that, we usually propose a company some information about possibilities to protect your solutions, your products, about choosing the best configurations for main and supporting patents, for protecting your main, most valuable technologies through patent umbrellas, about choosing the best markets in the world, and so on. When we were just starting our activities, we were always thinking about the group of technologies, industry-specific landscapes, patent intelligence. Usually it was for us the group of technology analysis. So, for example, polymer flooding, and when we were holding that in focus, we were doing some patent analytics for such a specific area. Right now, we can focus on one out of 4 spheres, for example, technical documentation. When we get project documentation from a company, some input data, and then we start working with it, we find patentable solutions in it, and then we decide what kind of solutions are necessary and what kind of patents will be required. We also can help a company with deals. When they buy expensive equipment, we'll help the company to understand what is to be done. We analyze the profiles of sellers of specific technologies. And of course, we can focus on your competitors if needed, and we can provide you a lot of information about your competitors in many different aspects. Andrei will talk more about it, but now I need to say that we are creating a new concept, commercialization of technology. And on this slide, you see how a client knows a certain technology and he knows what he wants to do with it. And after that, when we understand the technology itself, we have 2 contours of analysis. For example, on the one hand, we understand how leading competitors use these technologies, and besides, we do a marketing analysis, which is usually done on the basis of non-patent information. And as a result, we get some information about a specific group of technologies, about the situation with this technology in the world. We have push and pull technologies when we understand analogous technologies, and we can define prices which are asked by sellers. We can understand characteristics of worldwide acceptance, and when we understand that, we know after that we can provide some information about the potential of commercialization of a specific technology, and after that, if the potential is not high, in such a case, anyway, this information is very valuable. You will understand for the future what you can do about your technology. But if a potential is high, then you start preparation for selling. When we help you with the model of commercialization, we help you to formulate your negotiating position. We can help you to develop a commercial proposal and even a license agreement, which will include all the necessary modern proposals related to improvements and so on. So it will be a fully fledged license agreement. And recently we've been discussing a lot of such long-term cooperations with our clients. We have on the slides some specific projects we have with our clients: direct and indirect transfer of technology, pricing audit, technological audit, pricing strategies. So this is a full contour of technologies management, and during the round table today we will talk about the migration with regards to technology. I'd like to thank you for attention, and now I'll give the floor to Nikolai Popov, who is my deputy, who is the head of the factory-pated analytics operational department. Good day. I'd like to see my presentation on the screen. I think that you understand already the things that we are doing right now, and I would like to tell you about the foundation of our department, about its evolution, and mention some specific steps that we go through in developing our products. First of all, our department is not very unique in the world. First of all, I'd like to see that the interpreter hears two voices at the same time. I can't interpret because of technical problems. There are two voices at the same time. У переводчика две дорожки одновременно. Переводить невозможно. У переводчика по-прежнему две дорожки. The interpreter hears two voices at the same time.
Примерно 32 проекта больших комплексных проектов мы сделаем для больших компаний. Таким образом, как видите, количественные, вы видите на слайде, динамику наших проектов, кроме этого, мы, конечно, большое внимание уделяем.
Interpreter continues to hear two voices. FIPS, unfortunately, we are solving this problem with technical specialists.
Многие уже знакомы с нашей практикой и нашу такую базовую продуктовую линейку хорошо представляют. Тем не менее, я напомню,
Please bear with us. We are working on that. There is a technical problem.
мы предлагаем заказчикам, выделяем внутри 4 ключевых продукта. Это отраслевой патентный ландшафт, когда мы очень детально исследуем именно патентную. Многие уже знакомы с нашей патентно-технологической разведкой, такую базовую ее главную вещь в том, что здесь кроме патентов я напомню, может быть, кто-то еще не стал, непатентная литература с нашей деятельностью, открытый источник предлагаем заказчикам. И есть два продукта операционного уровня. R&D антураж — это такой сервис легких, быстрых отчетов, который позволяет компаниям приоритизировать неокр. Обычно этот продукт выпускается в пакетном режиме. Здесь, кроме патентов, и для компаний таких отчетов может выполняться до 50 открытые источники, интернет. И еще один продукт операционного уровня — анализ портфеля патентов. Есть два продукта операционного уровня. Это когда у компаний мы исследуем такой сервис портфель действующих патентов, разбираясь, какие компаниям приоритизировать важные, какие компаниям нужно поддерживать, какие нужно коммерциализировать. И для компаний таких, как дальше выбирать стратегию патентования. До 50 в год. И еще один продукт операционного уровня, анализ. Еще одно пояснение отличия ключевых наших продуктов, отраслевой патентный ландшафт и патентно-технологическая разведка. Вот на этом слайде вы видите, что основное, какие компаниям нужно преимущество, основная характеристика отраслевого патентного ландшафта — это то, что дальше выбирать стратегию патентования. В составе его работ разрабатывается вот такая разветвленная модель предметной области, которая включает до наших продуктов, нескольких сотен элементов патентно-технологическая разведка, тщательно проработанных, что как нашими экспертами, так и преимущества экспертами патентного ведомства FIPS, которые принимают участие в нашей работе, и так и внешних экспертов. То есть сама по себе модель отраслевого патентного ландшафта — это уникальный результат, модель который сам по себе заказчику очень важен и нужен для практической работы, для выстраивания стратегии. Но кроме этого, как нашими экспертами, в этой модели каждый элемент в последующем анализе подвергается, которые принимают участие в нашей работе. Патенты каждого элемента подвергаются глубинному анализу, то есть мы читаем практически каждый патент, который сам по себе заказчик. Отличие патентной технологической разведки, оно в том, что здесь мы начинаем работать с технологиями. Модель тоже составляется, но ее главная цель модели — каждый элемент.
We also have a model, but the main goal is to find good search strategy. And the result will be the analysis of technology. And it's interesting that our clients now very often pay a lot of attention, much more attention, and it's actually a lot in demand, the patent intelligence. And as a result, we can create complex products when we have an industry-specific landscape with the patent analytics. And when we create new products, we are trying to create more complex products, of course, holding in mind goals of our customers. I'll give you one example about modeling the subject sphere. So, for example, hydrocracking. This sphere we have to break down to many subspheres, and there are different elements of hydrocracking. Those who are parts of the catalysts. We need to know the process of production. We know different shapes of catalysts, we know different problem areas. So this model will contain several hundreds of elements, and only when we are absolutely sure that this model is absolutely right, that it's complete, we will start the analysis. It's very important to perform search correctly. We will talk more about it today, and still I wanted to highlight this. We've already demonstrated our approach to the multi-contour patent search. This is really a key element when we are performing patent analytics. And last year we had 6 searching contours. You know that when we do the search, we use specific words, we use indices, we use specific names and registration numbers, we use stop words. And as for last year, this was our methodology, and we actually very generously sharing it with our colleagues, with other people in the industry, because we think that our methodology is not a bad one. Right now, we use some of the new contours used for the search. For example, using quotes, using citation. For example, when we understand that some documents which we find as a result of the search are very relevant for our processes, and as a result we use the collection, we select the selection or collection of relevant documents. That's a very interesting methodology. We use several providers who provide such tools. And as for the tools that we use, not only with regards to search, we also have a lot of other operations, about 20 operations related to this. So we have a system which has 250 parameters which are used during this process. And testing will be just one of the elements from the group of elements within our processes. So, for example, citing, it's an instrumental decision. After that, I wanted to tell you about our experience with the use of expanded patent families. There are simple patent families which protect one invention, and there are larger families which protect the set of inventions. And for some searching tasks, for some specific industries, it's a good idea to use search through expanded families. Another thing, ranging strong and weak terms. When you work with a specific area where you have a lot of documents, patent documents, you have to differentiate the relevancy of different documents. You need to define which terms will be strong ones, which will set up the nucleus, and which terms will be just additional, which could also be used for the search, but some of the documents should be considered not relevant and you do not use them. And here we use mathematical calculations which understand us to define strong and weak terms for selecting the correct set of documents. Next thing, search of the future. Just the quality, that's just a quantity, that's not always a good solution. That's why we do different texts, we do different exercises when we mix different type of searching contours. And that's a topic which will be mentioned a lot later today.
And another aspect is the quality control of the set or collection. This well, I won't say anything new about that, but the standardization problem, as we believe, has been solved quite well with modern providers, and actually we are paying more attention on tagging patent documents, in tagging patents by through a model, because as a result is very important for our clients, because they receive tens or hundreds of ready collections. Another unique advantage that we are showing is our approach, insight-driven analytics. It's a non-linear analysis in a specific area as a contraposition to linear analysis. When you see a photo, a drawing, here we identify specific anomalies and hook into the logic of the applicants. We start analyzing. Well, insight-driven approach is like when I have a missile, we disassemble it until by pieces, and so we understand which is the functions that it's used for. Where could it also be applied, for example, in gas security area, and it's also what other means used to produce such a missile. Where else could be it could be applied? Maybe in drilling or boring. So through such mindstorms, we identify such insights, and as a result of such insights are the recommendations to the clients about or where strictly military technologies could be applied in civil areas. Another analysis that we also perform is the company analytics. I would identify three sections in profiling and analysis. Is analysis of all the documentations before the patent is granted. We should pay a lot of attention to that as you analyze a specific area of applicant behavior, as the authority replies to the applicants, which poses are being made during the application. The second stage is the post-grant analysis. What happens with the rights, with the patent rights of the applicants once the patent has been granted? The legal analysis of the patent, and the third block is the analysis of such so-called claim analysis. Is the analysis related to all kind of claims. Well, for us it's a new topic. What happens with the patents as the applicants presents his application, and what happens afterwards. By monitoring the migration of rights is very interesting on how the applicants applies his rights for a patent, and how the applicant interacts with the authority to cover the wider areas possible by a patent. We are making a few recommendations to applicants, usually from Russia, that believe that by refusal through the authority is a barrier that should not is a barrier at all, and in fact it's an invitation from the authority to a dialogue. In detail we study complicated patent families. Well, this is a sample to two areas where there are several hundreds of patent applications. We have to study which part of the segment has been granted in Russia, how could it interfere with all the activities of our clients or our partners. This is another area, is the analysis of complicated patent families. This is an interesting topic, and we now prepare some kind of recommendations for the applicants. When we started, our work was based on the recommendations of WAIS. You can find such statements that it's not recommended to give any kind of advice to the applicants. Well, we've made a step on our side. that we actually should advise our customers, and the applicants are not really interested in how many patents there are, but needs specific steps on what should be done next with his invention. So these are the areas where we've provided such recommendations. Our applicants wanted to remain anonymous. And after the application, there is an analytics work, interpretation, and those conclusions are based on some practical observations and expert opinions. But well, these are the practical steps. All our products are published in a good polygraphic quality. This is an analytic palette, as we call it. Well, basically, it's a huge sheet that the director hangs in his office, and here there are some extracts of the core insights and conclusions that are made on over 300 pages reports. You don't have to read the 300 pages, but here you could clearly see what are the what's happening in the area. This is our report for Rostelecom regarding 5G technologies. Well, then we understand that with the basic analytical products in our area won't suffice, and so we're continuously expanding our competence. We adding new products, new sections, and so I'd like to point out that now we are making offering some new solutions as recommendations on patenting for our clients, recommendations on patenting on foreign markets, advice on such patenting, and so on, and some other competence that you see on this slide. And so we're gonna be going more in depth today. We understand that obviously all the competence that we can provide, we accumulate, we should be able to offer them to those countries, those companies that are interested, and we have developed such programs on how do we transfer our experience to all those companies that are interested. This is a 8-module program. Once a year, there are lots of practice. We make lots of practice, and we use the best teaching tools. And so analytics use real cases as demonstrating the program. And also we have corporate-oriented educational programs as we adjust our material to the needs of the company, and so on. Another aspect or concept is this word spreading about our competence through regional competence centers in so-called FIPS with cluster technological parks. We work with close collaboration with the local administrations in the regions, and we're beginning a regional practice of providing services on technological advisory, and in this case we teach those competence centers, train them in specific competence free of charge. The AKIT, associations of clusters and technological parks. Some competence are already available in the center and in the regions. And this way, new centers of knowledge emerge, and some governmental structures can access this information and get some ideas before product launchment. And some over 20 different competence our own or through third parties. So those centers of competence become a major driver of region development. We invite all regional organizations to this program. We have 7 centers that are different stages of preparation. And shall you be interested in participation in such a program, please, you can contact us. We can reach the governments of the regions. We can make the necessary consultations with the local authorities and seek the best options. So the local competence centers in the regions can be taking advantage of such opportunity. That's all. Thank you, colleagues. Well, Nikolai, in our chat we're receiving lots of messages that we're having some difficulties with the sound. People seems to be receiving echo. Probably this could be fixed by our technicians. Well, we have a virtual platform today. Nikolai, as a deputy in terms of production, how, well, you've mentioned over 20 projects were executed simultaneously. How does the machine work so you can manage so many projects at a time at the factory? Well, probably this is why, yeah, I'll speak closely to the microphone. The sound should be better. This is why we call ourselves a factory, because we just have 10 analytics inside the design bureau, carrying over 20 or 25 projects. And so for us, obviously it's complicated, but specifically in order to keep a quality control, we have developed such methodological materials for internal use. It's a white book of the project's bureau. It's a huge 300 pages white book that describes all the processes in the office. We have a partnership version that we can provide and show regarding our practice. All the processes are documented, so in these terms we don't have any kind of complications, or we meet the deadlines, and after finishing a project we continuously assess the clients, so the products are duly integrated into the company's activity. Thank you so much. Dear colleagues, I'm hoping that this sound is better. I'm giving the word to the head of business analysis of project office. It's a person with a very wide amount of competence, and he's dedicated to the production of polymers through magnetic levitation. Fyodor Batanov, head of business analysis group. Hello. Well, my presentation won't be too long. So, the topic of my presentation: in-depth and patent analysis, and in 20 minutes I'll try to go shortly, because with 20 minutes well, definitely won't suffice, but I'll explain how we do an in-depth analysis of technologies and patents. As we speak of technology, it's the concept itself, because there are many ways of understanding the concept, depending on different companies' purpose. The understanding would be very different. Technology could be understood as a group of the different objects created by man. Well, it's a technology of technology is the aviation industry, and technology could be contemplated as a process, as steel manufacturing, and technology. It could be contemplated as a complex of knowledge in products manufacturing. It's just not just a set of knowledge, but the skills to apply such knowledge. So, related with this topic, as we study different processes in companies and business, there are some other questions that arise on how to find the specific technology, who can provide it, what is cheaper to develop it, to buy it, do we have the qualified specialists in this area, which markets are accessible for us, and it's a countless number of questions. And in terms of technology, we need to have a clear understanding which answer can we give. So after the questions, there are some goals that the company has to solve, either it's acquisition, licensing, development, and so on. And to all those questions, major parts of them, through the patent analytics could give the answer. But it's very important to understand how large is the scale of such study. Whether it's an aviation design analysis, it could be very complex aspects of plane design, the mechanical parts, materials, software for developments, testing methods, and so on. And you can think in, if you don't take into account that you have to set a proper focus from the very beginning. And the key question here is that you have to answer as you do a technological analysis is what are the needs actually. How do we know if it's what we're looking for, and how to understand what we don't need as we perform the analysis. We have to properly define the area of interest, and then we'll succeed in such areas of technological analysis. In order to make it on a high quality level without any informational losses, we need to have a complex approach, but in our practice we have an understanding that the basis for this could be the patent analysis, because the patent information has a set of unique properties. There is a proper technical description. It is proven by the respective intellectual property authority. Those data is structured. It's universal and valid from the technical point of view. But at the same time, only with the patent information, as in such field as technological analysis, is not enough. There is a huge amount of scientific publication that treats theoretical aspects or aspects of the nearest future application of technologies, and there are some companies that offer their strategies and their plans for the future that also could influence the technological landscape. And if we duly combine those sources of information in technological analysis, we'll have a decent result. And then on this slide you can see that the patent information would be the basis of such analysis, with posterior inclusion of other sources of information. It's a basic condition, but not self-sufficient. And to have a complex approach from the beginning, you have to make a model of the study objects, as I mentioned before. What do we need, and exclude those aspects that we don't need. So this is a process that's use of the FIPS and experts from the business community, experts from the clients. It could take from 1 month to 1.5 months in order to define such area. So all people, all the specialists that will make use of such a study, understand what is behind, and be able to apply the results. The next step, as we define what we're looking for, is as we define what is valid and what is the focus of our attention in the technological aspects, as we have defined it properly, is to make a combination of all the information that we're able to find, an application of a search strategy. It's a multi-factor process. Nicole, I already mentioned this aspect, and the patent search is a major part, but at the same time we make use of different databases of scientific articles, and we work closely with companies, with leaders in specific areas. So stage by stage, and consecutively we go through all the stages. This results in a beautiful configuration where we can have an insight on how the specific technologies have been developed in the world and make our due conclusions.
Why is it important to use other sources, not only patent information? Yes, patent information has lots of advantages. They are very clearly defined. I mentioned them, but there are some challenges too related to such information. We need to take them into account. Sometimes applicants, they are trying to hide the main purpose of their solutions, of their work, but they need their solutions to be protected. They need patents. And we know that it's not always, there is not always enough detalization, and the information with regarding to patent analytics is not always going hand in hand with the development of the technology. For example, on this slide you have two inventors. They are columns for gas production. Two of them are very closely related. You can describe both of them in just one sentence. They are actually casing strings. And in different patents, these inventions are described in 6 sentences in many different using many different expressions. So things are the same, but in different patents they are described differently. Sometimes patents are translated using the machine translation, so there is also the problem of translation too, especially when we are talking about patents from Asian languages, and you may not get the correct understanding. For example, on this slide you see the translation of an invention which was so it's invention from microelectronics, but according to translation we understood that it's something related to railroads. It's also important to understand that patent documents, they are well structured. There is very good classification, but often applicants, they try to insert as much information as possible in different sections of patents. So, for example, on this example, all the keywords demonstrated that it's something related to aviation, but this is not a plane turbine, but this is just a household fan. And when we get results from patent search, even if the request was worded correctly, there will be some documents which are not actually relevant, which you can't use for analytics. As a result, we get this iteration process. We know what we are searching for. We have high quality requests, but still they need to be fine-tuned using different tools, using citation, using specific searches, and Nikolai mentioned all of this. They should be a part of our operational process so that in the end we get a very good collection of documents which could be later broken down by different technologies. Universal approach includes patent search, includes search on technical literature and scientific literature. During the search we understand what we are going to focus on, what should we focus on. After that we create groups and sets of scientific articles and patents. We are creating so-called pools of documents. And as a result, specific invention or a solution will be produced using specific processes, using specific equipment from specific materials, and it has certain characteristics. Another bonus of patent analysis is the following. Sometimes, very often actually, applicants, they are trying to withhold information about their current inventions, and patent analysis lets us get information about some current processes. There are some patent documents which are not in open, which are not disclosed, and which can contain specific secret information. We can analyze them. We will also add them to certain pools of documents which will provide useful insights for our customers. We collect information, we break it down to specific groups, we analyze it, but besides we also work with experts. We want to ensure expert interpretation, very good characteristics of certain technologies, which is important for our customers, for specialists. So we are not only doing technical, factual breakdown, we also get additional recommendation and views from experts which are working in a certain area. As a result, we get a certain structure. When we have general knowledge about an area, we get some examples of technical solutions, we have some examples of specific products, and we have an expert forecast of the technological development in the future on the basis of expert view, for example. This is it. Thank you for your attention.
Да, Федор, спасибо большое.
Федор, thank you very much.
Скажите, пожалуйста, все-таки вот мы сейчас большое внимание уделяем образовательной деятельности и учим людей самостоятельно вести патентную аналитику.
So we teach our customers to do patent search by analytics by themselves. But they often say, I'm not a specialist in oil and gas. I'm not a specialist in machine building. If a person knows the set of tools, but what do we need to do to get a grasp of a certain area? area to get a good technical understanding for in-depth analysis. For in-depth analysis, anyway, you need to have a contact with specialists in the company who are responsible for solutions for new inventions, or with some third-party experts. No, you don't need to turn into an expert yourself, but you need to at least use the same terminology, to speak the same language with specialists. We have some programs when we hire new people. They usually are trained. It's an express training. We explain them how to work with scientific articles, how to get understanding of a new topic. And if you spend time, if you make effort, you can any person can get a good understanding of a new area, and if you are trained, that you can get a necessary level of knowledge in order to start speaking with experts. I also have a request to Alexander Makarov and other colleagues who are watching us on YouTube. Is it better right now? Do you still have problems with the volume of through YouTube? My question. There is a new person who joins the company. You tell him that you need to talk with scientific documents. He needs to talk with magnetic levitation. What does he need to know? What does he need to learn in order to be able to speak with experts, to work in this area? Of course, experience is your best friend, so you need to start with the general things, reading some general articles, doing some literature review on magnetic levitation, and with time you will understand all the processes in magnetic levitation. Yes, there are top-level research. There is top-level research, and they can provide you with some top-level classification and statistics. This is something that can create a general picture for you. And after that, after you already know something about the topic, after that you can look into technical specifications, costs, standards, and description of processes, of systems, and with time you will see the result. This person will be able to talk with experts, understand experts, and understand the specific area. How to understand whether the person has such a level already, but it usually depends on a person, and we usually know when we see new people joining the team, when they are going to learn enough. I am presenting today the factory of patent analytics. Probably you think that factory, that's people in overalls working around the clock. So tired and working a lot, so that we need to constantly give them orders, provide them with work. We have Andrei Layenko. We're very happy that he works in this project office, and he gives us lots of oxygen that we need for our processes. And he will tell you about our approach to promoting our products. He will also talk about commercialization of patent analytics. I'd like to see my presentation on the screen. Colleagues, good day. Oleg mentioned that in the last year we started getting more and more requests related to commercialization, and some of them are very specific requests. We're also delighted to see that we not only get requests to work with technologies which are outdated or which are tailored for the Russian market. Specifically, now we have requests related to some state-of-the-art technologies and entering world markets. Usually there are R&D departments, marketing departments, intellectual property departments, but they are not working all together and they are not communicating on a regular basis. Globally, the intellectual property is becoming more and more important for the value, for the valuation of the company. And if it's a dynamic modern company, usually there is this communication between R&D, marketing, and intellectual property people. They work very closely and they help people who develop technology. They manage the evolution of this technology. You can't manage it if you don't have a very good set of tools. And in the world, companies use specific tools related to intellectual property, managing it, and it helps companies to implement its business strategy. What kind of companies may need it? According to Toyota philosophy, every company may need it, but I would say that most of all managers will need it in order to take correct business decisions and ensure good evolution of the technology. Marketing specialists need it because they have to assess markets. They need to see where competitors are going in order to protect the market of the companies. They need to understand what kind of companies are going to appear on the market soon. Engineers may need it because they spend a lot of time searching and analyzing information. They need to understand what is the best area for development right now, and patent analysis may significantly help them solving their problems. And specialists on IP, they also need objective information on the IP market. They need strategies for protecting technologies of leading companies. And as we know from foreign articles, from our communication with large global companies, when marketing, R&D, and IP departments work in very close cooperation, it always helps. BP is an example. They license the technology related to teleptal acid. Very often I see that many Russian manufacturers, they want to create an innovative product, but BP focuses a lot on the technology of producing products. As you see from the slide, BP by 30% reduced the number of equipment as compared to previous processes, and this helped them a lot. They reduced capital expenditures and they reduced the prime cost of their product. They also gained some operational savings. They managed to significantly increase the volume of production. I usually always have this slide in my talks. I would like Russian companies to change the situation. I'd like to encourage them to work differently. You see that by the number of license payments, we see three leaders, the USA, Europe, and Japan. Russia, I would say, is almost non-existent on this graph of license payments. I do hope that in the future the situation will change, and I do see that Russian companies are trying to change it.
On the life cycle of innovation, we contemplate them through two approaches. It's the proper life cycle of an invention as it gets matured. Every time there's some imitation products, and from the stage of research and on the stage of decline, in order for the companies to stay afloat or to keep on their leadership positions that it holds at a certain moment, the company should contemplate the creation of a new product. And the second approach is related with the markets. Well, usually the companies work on those markets that are familiar to them, and according to the patent analysis, we can identify new markets for innovational products. Well, the commercialization, if we roughly look at this topic, we can divide them in three huge blocks. We have to identify the objects of intellectual property, choose the markets and regions who would have the demands of such intellectual property, and choose the way of commercialization. I'd also like to point out that not all IP can be commercialized. There is an internal contour. The peak technologies, those developments that grant the technological security of Russia, and the basic developments that under no concept can be commercialized. The rest of the technologies are those on the external contour that can be on the decline, or those that are on decline can be commercialized in any way, and the preparation of those would give the major feedback to a company. Can we switch to the next slide, please? And now we go into detail on those actions that should be taken in order to commercialize a technology. First stage is the preparation, and as a result of such, we have a rating of the technologies, identifying potential markets and potential partners. And so, well, as we say, it's quite easy. We make an offer, we find specific people that would undertake the future technological developments. We contact them, having prepared the proposition depending on the partner and the markets, and as the final stage is the license agreements. Obviously, on screen it looks easy, but in order to be able to succeed, obviously, we should apply a lot of effort. In terms of actions, I would not go into depth, but on the preparation stage, I will show how through patent analytics we work with the patents. First, we choose the target markets. It's the sample of one of our projects on commercialization. We choose huge analytical data on choosing the markets. We not usually consider those markets that the company is already present, but we seek those border markets where the technology can also be applied. And obviously, we not only use patent analytics, but companies' strategical documents and the existing relationship. And having this patent information, we identify the markets with major potential. In this case, of all the markets are Korea and Japan. After we study the needs, and there we consider the companies that making any kind of invention activity in the fields of our study, and considering different criteria, we identify those players on the market, and we compare them with the markets that we identified before. And in this case, if we identified Korea and Japan as prospective participants, we have selected those companies that you see, Kawasaki, Mitsubishi, and the company Untitled Energy does not belong to the selected markets, but the company's interest on such markets is huge, and is making activity in the fields of study. Then we make a rating according to the criteria of application, the technical quality of the solution. The important question is the implementation costs. And why do we do that? If we want to commercialize intellectual property, we have to create a product. We need to make a product that can be sold, that has a specific characteristics, and it should be duly packaged in order to have a proper negotiation position that we can offer to our potential partner. We make an analysis of the patent situation on the target markets. We evaluate how our solution responds to the patenting dynamics that exist in the market, and on the analytical analysis we see in which fields of patenting such technology can be applied. As we saw the example of the technology was developed in the aviation engineering, but it can also be applied in other areas as gas and oil, etc., in pumping equipment and similar. Then we make an analysis on non-patent situation on the target markets. Is identification of non-technical risks that could lead to any kind of limitation in commercialization of the intellectual property, some regulations and obstacles, sanctions like what's happening now. And the second part is the identification of non-technological advantages on specific markets. Is that the demand on specific technology can be not on its peak, but the specific solution could be demanded on the market by other criteria. And another question that we also consider with our clients is the due insurance or security of intellectual property. This analysis is evaluated based on the maturity of the law and technological solution, the fullness of patent security. We always mention that the Russian inventors do not fully protect the inventions comparing to West partners. The needs of patenting, because often all our clients don't identify all the aspects that can be protected. So on such analysis we need to evaluate the major possible technological solutions to protect them, and in order to make due license agreements and to avoid the loss of technology, and the different deals on commercialization based on the strategic plans of the company, and depending on whether the company would be like a direct seller of the technology, or there will be a government intervention. And another important aspect that engage all the directors is the evaluation of the economical impact. If we made any kind of steps on commercialization, is in order to profits, and based on our experience, the decisions on commercializations is delegated on specialists on intellectual property or marketing specialists, and on our international experience, it's pointless to make the decision to commercialize without having the specific departments that is dedicated on commercialization, or either it should be specialists related with the marketing departments or the strategical departments, and I've already mentioned that the departments on commercialization should need a strong connection with the marketing departments, R&D. We understand that any technological solution can be improved or complemented with the other technological solutions, and obviously the departments related with the intellectual property is the identification of sufficient protection on the target markets. I'd like to also point out that the specialists on commercialization should be charismatic specialists on sales, basically, having some knowledge on technical having some technical backgrounds or education, and it's very good is if the commercialization specialist is I'm speaking about the Russian companies in the market. If they don't stick to the Russian market, the specialist should also speak other languages. Basically, it's the commercialization is a database and the due connections. So you need to update those databases, and the patent information is a good source of information for databases. And keep in mind the current situation in the world. We have mentioned that with Fyodor, that the exhibitions and conferences are now either cancelled or being held online. So this process of communication with the partners is through the patent information, and I have some annex is a commercialization concept that we have developed according to our experience and our clients' needs. All the products that we have created are non-synthetic. They have been created on demand, and finally they became a product. So right now we are on the scaling phase, and the technological slides and innovations in demands and solutions. The description of demands that the Russian companies usually have, and how through the patent information we can solve. Well, basically, I'll finish with that. I'm ready to answer your questions. Thank you so much, Andrei. I have several questions myself, and can you note them down, please? And the first questions are mine. We often are contacted by partner authorities and organizations. We are doing something interesting. We are working in fields that can be related with the patent analytics, so we can be making a price audit, cost audits. How should we act in order to understand whether those services can be integrated, so we can offer combined products and sell it seamlessly? And the second questions with Fyodor, we have been on the gas and oil conference, and we met a lonely guy, a young guy, that said we're a small company, we're not Gazprom Neft. We are developing some tools that can be applied in the gas and oil market, kind of nozzle, and so due to COVID we cannot travel anywhere to offer our product, and so they're sitting in the corner, nobody sees them. And from the point of view of patent analysis, how can we help those companies? This is the second question. And questions from our friend Alexander Makarov. Would you have any positive experience on technology commercialization? And the final, I've promised 3 or 4 questions, and the final questions, how your clients make a follow-up of on a violation of their rights on as they license something. How do they follow up such violations? Well, thank you so much for the questions. Well, let's go in order. How seamlessly can you offer analytics with other companies? Well, what we've been doing so far is patent analysis is wider, obviously, and it should be helping such area that's been developed in the world. It's recently been included in the international classification of specializations is the technology management. So basically, it's part of all those aspects related not only with intellectual property strictly, but with developments, monitoring of rights violation, and their defense in courts. So considering those centers of competence that Nikolai had mentioned, is to have an understanding that it's one place information center in order to take a technology to the markets, to protect it, and then to follow up such violations, to be able to do all that in one place. So having one focus on management, it's easy to combine. The question is to understand what is the purpose of such combination. Is that the clients often don't understand which is the problem that's being solved, and we are trying to identify the business target actually they are pursuing. So once we have clear this business target, then the analytic could be just 20–30% of the process. Well, this second question is about the nozzle. Well, there are three ways. First, people don't want to share anything with anybody. They see it at the computer, they find a company that's potentially could be interested in such a nozzle, and they start to contact those companies to reach the people that make the decisions and so on, trying to reach the people that's well to sell them the products. It's the longest way associated with many risks. The second way is to speak to several technological brokers, local or, well, international, who will package this technology and will promote it on a global level. And this third, I will combine it with the question of Mr. Makarov. In Russia, there are some companies that are starting to emerge that are offering technological consulting. We are such a company, a positive experience. We don't have a positive experience on reaching the money stage. We are being straight. We have several partners in Singapore, in Germany, that have broad experience in commercialization, and I believe that we can develop this competence in our home office. And in Russia, we're gonna be having a company providing technological consulting on quite a broad area. Rights violation. Well, I've been in communication with the Nokia company. I believe it was in Belgium on a fair. I had that slide in my training presentations. I have these slides. I will explain it without the slides. Basically, the work is on with 4 stages. The first is the patent analytic. 25 people are dedicated from the potential violator of rights. It's based on the patent's quotation or citation. Nokia, as you know, is one of the leaders in the telecom sector, and basing on the analytic understanding they identified by quoting, they identified the violator. Then we make an analysis whether this company has the potential possibility or technical possibility and other on creating this technology that they are referring to, the Nokia patents. If the company has, well, if it doesn't have such a possibility, obviously it's a violator. If the company has such a possibility, then we make a control acquisition and disassemble it. Thank you so much, Andrei.
This was the last presentation by heads of the directorates. And before we give the floor to our partner from Singapore, I'd like to say that I was waiting for you to mention the integration of patent analytics into strategic forecasting for science and technologies. We are doing this together with the Center of Scientific Forecasting at the Moscow State University, and Oleg Karashev is going to be there at the round table today. But I wanted to say that it's important for us to get questions from customers. You tell us what's happening with technologies right now, but we'd like to know what's happening in 5 or 10 years. Before we were answering you that we don't know using patent analytics what's going to happen in 10 years, but now we are cooperating with customers, and we will be able to use patent analytics in order to predict the situation 5, 10, 15 or even 20 years from now. That's good to understand the technology, its genesis and its evolution. Now I give the floor to Dr. Jinquan Huang. He is a leading patent expert of the Agency of Intellectual Property of Singapore, and for us it's a consulting department. Jinquan is the head of the section of patent analytics. For more than 10 years he's been working with the modern technological landscape in planning and R&D, and it's important that he has a technical background. He specialized in materials and smart technologies, and also, of course, he knows about strategic management of intellectual property, and it's very interesting for us. We give you the floor.
И важно, что у него есть профессиональная техническая специализация, он имеет специализацию в области полупроводников, естественно, компетенции в области стратегического управления интеллектуальной собственностью. С удовольствием и с интересом послушаем ваше выступление. Джинкуан, пожалуйста. Исследование разработок. И важно, что у него есть профессиональная техническая специализация, он имеет специализацию в области полупроводников, естественно, компетенции в области стратегического управления интеллектуальной собственностью. С удовольствием и с интересом послушаем ваше выступление. Джинкуан, пожалуйста. Исследование разработок. И важно, что у него есть профессиональная техническая специализация, он имеет специализацию в области полупроводников.
Мы слышим сейчас председателя.
Естественно, компетенции в области стратегического управления интеллектуальной собственностью.
Переводчики
С
не слышат
удовольствием и
докладчика.
с интересом послушаем ваше выступление. Джинкуан, пожалуйста. Исследование разработок. И важно, что у него есть профессиональная техническая специализация, он имеет специализацию в области полупроводников.
Мы
Dixon was unable to deliver his speech due to some unforeseen circumstances. So, following is actually his speech. Please accept my most sincere apology for some unforeseen circumstances. I'm unable to deliver my speech, hence my colleague Dr. Huang will be delivering my speech on my behalf. I've made no less than 4 trips to Russia and have visited beautiful cities like Moscow, St. Petersburg. Unfortunately, due to the present COVID situation, I'm unable to visit, something which I will miss a lot. I'm fortunate to have met Oleg, director of the FIPS project office of Ross Patton, at the World IP Summit held in Amsterdam late last year. The wonderful conversation we had at dinner will always be a fond part of my friendship with you. Please let me share a quick view on pattern analytics. We live in a world of information. It has become increasingly important to develop capabilities to analyze the raw data and organize it in a structured way to inform and explain to us about the world around us. That leads us to a chicken and egg issue. We seek and desire guidance from information, and yet data on its own cannot adequately speak to us. In the world of IP strategy, I feel that it is crucially important to identify right at the start what is the strategic outcome that we want to achieve. Once that is done, we must devise and ensure that each tactical step must bring us closer towards the strategic outcome we desire. Pattern analytics is one of those important tools that can assist us in that journey. I believe that this is going to be an exciting and fruitful exchange of thoughts. I thank the organizer for inviting and including us in such progressive conversation. With that, I shall retire into the crowd of audience on YouTube and continue to observe the conference. So that is the speech by my director, Dixon. So I shall now move on to my presentation. Thank you, Ross Patton, for organizing this conference, and Oleg for the kind introduction. A very good afternoon to our friends in Russia. Good morning and good evening to friends in the other parts of the world. As my fellow panelists have already covered, pattern analytics is a very powerful tool with many practical applications. I will add a few thoughts on how it can be used to assist decision-making. As a professional working in this field for many years, I will also share some views on the challenges facing pattern analytics and how we have overcome such challenges. Before I start, I would like to congratulate Ross Patton on your belated 65th anniversary, and I wish Ross Patton continued success in the years to come. A quick introduction on the IP Office of Singapore and IPOS International. IPOS is under the Ministry of Law of the Singapore government. As a national IP office, IPOS advises on and administers IP law, promotes IP awareness, and provides the infrastructure to facilitate the development of IP in Singapore. IPOS International, the organization that I work for, is IPOS Expertise and Enterprise Engagement Arm. Together with IPOS, we support enterprises to use intellectual properties and intangible assets to grow. We work closely with both private enterprises and public agencies. We provide technical pattern search, examination, and analysis to support innovation in Singapore. We also conduct training programs for companies and individuals to develop IP skills. Singapore has always been a perfect place in Asia that bridges the East and the West. One of our strengths is that we are able to draw on our unique multicultural and multilingual capabilities to bring data, insights, and experiences from both Western and Asian contexts. As you have already seen in the previous presentation, pattern analytics is a powerful tool that can be used to derive important insights from different purposes. It can be used at country level for strategic planning of a country's R&D, or at the corporate level to help formulate a company's business strategy. We expect that pattern analytics will gain more traction because increasingly, intellectual properties or intangible assets are playing a more important role in today's business environment. Many studies have shown that intangible assets are recognized as a catalyst for wealth creation and market value. And within the last quarter century, intangible assets has emerged as the leading asset class. A recent study by Ocean Tomo has revealed that the the value of intangible assets of the S&P 500 has increased from 68% in 1995 to 84% in 2015 of the market value of S&P 500. And COVID-19 has certainly accelerated this trend with intangible assets now commanding over 90%. So given the growing importance of intangible assets, a company needs to adopt an integrative business, innovation, and IP strategy, where patent analytics plays a key role. Business strategy is the foundation of every company. A sound business strategy is essential for the success and sustainability of any business venture. Without one, companies can lack direction, efficiency, and profitability. A well-defined business strategy needs to be informed by competitive intelligence. We are often surprised by how uninformed many companies are about their competitors' technologies, even though the competitors' patents and patent applications are publicly available and can be easily identified. Using patent analytics, it is possible to generate a detailed competitive patent landscape that provides insights into the priority areas and strategies of your direct competitors. The competitive landscape can also be extended to cover patents of your suppliers, your customers, and any companies in related technology areas, because they can be your potential partners and targets for mergers and acquisition. When the competitive intelligence is provided on a regular basis, on a periodic basis, a company can continually monitor its strengths and weaknesses and make adjustments to where the efforts and resources are best spent. We have used patent analytics to help organizations avoid the mistake of forging into a heavily patented area. And if companies choose to work in a competitive arena, we help them develop a rational strategy and on how to best compete with others, whether is it through technology innovation or business model innovation or combination of both. Today's topic is about expectations and challenges of patent analytics. From the engagement with our clients throughout the years, we realized that there are indeed different levels of expectations. Here we simplified them into two categories. Many clients expect patent analytics to provide actionable intelligence that delivers business impact. This is reasonable, and it's actually the best way to prove the value of patent analytics. But it's very challenging because the emphasis here is on actionable intelligence. This will mean that the analysis has to go beyond just presenting the patent data. There's a need to highlight what the data mean to your client, and there's a need to give very specific recommendations to your client so that they can enhance their strategic positions against their peers. We have also people who are so strong, who are such strong believers that they expect patent analytics to be a silver bullet to solve all their issues and help them make all kinds of decisions. This is unrealistic expectation. The trick here is not just to manage such unreasonable expectation, but to try our best to maximize the potential of patent analytics. We may never be able to make patent analytics a silver bullet, but we can certainly make it as powerful as possible and as versatile as possible. But there are many challenges. Perhaps before I continue, I would like to check, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. I shall just move on. So I mentioned about challenges that we face. Indeed, if you ask any patent analytics professional about the most difficult challenge they face, the answer would most likely be getting the buy-in from the client's top management. For patent analytics to deliver the business impact, it needs to be implemented as part of the business strategy. And this is not possible without the support from the top management. But on the other hand, the top management often does not understand the value of patent analytics. They may know very well about technology and finance because the chief technology officer, the chief finance officers are in the C-suite. But how often do you hear a chief IP officer or chief patent officer? The answer is likely no. The lack of understanding of the importance of patent analytics is often the fundamental reason behind the difficulty in getting buy-in from the top management. Another challenge is how to turn the massive amount of patent data into useful insights, into actionable intelligence. To start, there's huge complexity associated with the global patent systems. To begin with, there isn't any standardized format of the patent application number among different patent offices. There are also difficulties in harmonizing applicant names, the difficulty in tracing the origin of the inventions because of the fact that information on the applicant address is often incomplete. In any analytics, the outcomes are highly dependent on the input data, so it's essential to ensure a search that's as complete and as accurate as possible. And this is not an easy task because we are talking about searches into patent specifications written in different languages. Just one example. According to the latest statistics published by WIPO, there are 3.3 million patent applications in 2018, and close to half of them are from China. The interesting fact about Chinese patent applications is that majority of them are not found anywhere else, so there's no English equivalent. Machine translation in this case often does not help much because patent specifications are so technical and so legalistic. In this regard, the PA team in IPOS in Singapore has been very fortunate because of our multicultural and multilingual capabilities. For every single project we work on, we will ensure that we will have a member who's able to conduct patent search using native Chinese keywords. The next challenge is actually how to make patent analytics more powerful and more versatile. A key drawback of patent data is the 18-month delay in publishing patent applications after their earliest filing date. This would mean that if we are looking at only patent data, we are 18 months behind time, and we have no visibility of how technologies has evolved in this 18-month dark period. There are also other limitations of patent data. For example, forward citations are a strong indication of the impact of a patent, but such information is often incomplete or not immediately available for newly published patent applications because it takes time for them to be noticed and subsequently cited. Other limitations of patent data include incomplete licensing information. It is very difficult to ascertain whether a patented invention has been deployed in real life. All these limitations would mean that we have to augment patent data with other non-patent information. Scientific journals, details of R&D grant costs are good non-patent information. They are often lead indicators of technology development. On the other hand, market information, business intelligence are equally important, especially in terms of evaluating technology maturity and commercial viability. Last but not least, it requires different expertise to draw useful insights from different patent and non-patent information. The sense-making of business intelligence and market information, for example, requires the input from someone with strong business acumen. Expert opinions, industrial inputs are often required to understand the industry's needs and drivers of the technology. So other than the 4 challenges highlighted on this slide, there are many more on the list. But the good thing is, depending on the complexity of the project, we may not need to deal with all of these challenges. Sometimes patent data alone is enough to answer a particular problem statement, but this requires us to be very savvy about patent data so that we know how to slice and dice them to extract useful insights. So let me give you one example. A couple of years back, we did a project on technologies relating to remote monitoring of patients' vital signs. The objective of the study is to identify areas within this domain that offer better R&D opportunities. And if you look at the sample reports out there, many of them actually are available on the web. So many of them will typically tell you who are the top players and which areas have been heavily patented. So just like the 2 charts shown on the slide. These are very good information, and one needs to spend a lot of effort to get such information. But they are not enough. These, at the very best, are just patent statistics, not patent analytics. Such data does not offer much value, and your clients will be either thinking or even saying out loud, so what? Because they don't know what such data would mean to them and what they should do with such data. And these 2 charts certainly do not answer the client's question in terms of technology areas that offer better R&D opportunities. So the trick is how to move beyond patent statistics. One way is actually to combine these two charts. So we put the top players on the x-axis and the top patenting areas on the y-axis. The size of the bubble, in this case, represents the portfolio size of the top player in that particular technology area. So by simply looking at the density and the size of the bubbles, we can see that many top patenting areas are already heavily guarded by the top players. But if you look closely, some areas are less explored. For example, simultaneous evaluation of cardiovascular and other parameters. That's actually the area number 5. We didn't see many patent applications from the top players. This means that this area has yet to be taken up by the top players. And this actually gives us a very good starting point. What we can do with the data is actually, we can investigate this area further. We found that the technologies in this area could be largely grouped into 3 categories. We further split the 10-year patent data into 2 blocks, those published in the earlier 5 years and those published in the late 5 years. We noticed that there's a clear drop in terms of the industrial's interest in physical measurement and monitoring, the first area on the left. This is a strong indication that such technologies are maturing. In other words, the analysis now tells us that it may be too late to start R&D in physical measurement and monitoring, because such technologies will be soon commercially available off the shelf. On the other hand, the next 2 areas, health index prediction, medical modeling, are more promising areas for R&D because they're still at the nascency stage, but are gaining fast traction. So this is just one example how we can go beyond simple patent statistics to provide data-supported recommendations specific to our clients' problem statements. In IPOS International, we offer patent analytics services to cater for different needs, from high-level technology scans that are ideal for providing a good overview of our technology domain, to in-depth industrial-level studies that aim to answer specific problem statements. As part of the Singapore government, we work closely with our public agencies, advising them on national R&D strategies and planning. We have one study on solar cell technologies that was subsequently published as an invited chapter to the Global Innovation Index 2018. So using patent analytics, we were able to understand where Singapore stands globally in terms of solar cell research. I mentioned the importance of augmenting patent data with other information. So in this case, we combine patent data with information such as a country's population and the amount of PV installation in the country. We saw a strong correlation between a country's efforts and achievement in driving PV technologies and their use of these inventions. We are able to identify 3 distinct groups: leaders, innovators, and users. So this data can inform our policymakers and enterprise about where the potential competitors, collaborators, and markets are. Our study also reviewed fast-growing areas which are listed in this table. Area number 2 on management and optimization of PV systems appear to be a window of opportunity because it has not been heavily contested. Area number 3, supporting structures for PV modules, is also of strong interest to Singapore because unlike big countries like China or Russia that builds larger solar farms on non-populated lands such as deserts and mountains, Singapore is a very small island state surrounded by seas. So one of the best places to put our solar cells would be on seawater. So these are indeed 2 areas that Singapore has been playing an active role in research and development, as well as test bedding and deployment of solar cell technologies. So in the area of management and optimization of PV systems, Singapore has been working on solar forecasts to study how to better anticipate and plan Singapore's solar output. And in the areas of supporting structures for PV modules, Singapore has launched the world's largest floating PV testbed to study the performance and cost effectiveness of various systems. So in closing, I would like to share some personal views on the future of patent analytics based on my experience as a professional working in this area for many years. So first of all, I believe that pattern analytics will continue to play an increasingly important role. The awareness and the use of pattern analytics are picking up traction. Many SMEs, for example, are starting to use such a powerful tool. And we are also very heartened to see that many commercial providers are offering pattern analytics services. These are encouraging signs that pattern analytics is gaining popularity. On the other hand, pattern analytics would face growing complexity given the changing business and innovation landscape. One key driver behind growing complexity is actually the digitalization that's happening across virtually all industries. Because of digitalization, new technologies are often heavily based on software and algorithms and are therefore not captured in pattern data. It will be a very challenging task to address such an issue. Last but not least, throughout the past 5 years, we have seen significant progress in pattern analytic tools using artificial intelligence to perform search and data mining. Some of the tasks performed by AI actually give very good results, especially when you are looking at high-level trends where there's less requirements for data accuracy. While AI is not able to replace a human pattern analyst completely, it will certainly help to do some of our works. Just like many other industries, pattern analytics will see more and more human-machine collaborations. While we use pattern analytics to study technologies, we ourselves also need to embrace technologies. So with this, I've come to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Джинкан, большое спасибо.
Very much, Jinkwan. It was a very interesting presentation. We learned about many areas of cooperation. We discussed them, and we used to discuss them. You see myself here, and you see 3 heads of departments. We have 3 questions to you, and each person will ask a question relating to its area of responsibility. First question from me. We in Russia do patent analytics for any industry, for any usage, but actually it's not true. In order to have industry-specific specialization, we need time. We need to set cooperation with experts, for example, in oil and gas, if it's oil and gas, they are oil and gas solutions, and if it's transport, then we need to cooperate with transport specialists. Question to you, do you have industry specialization at IPOS, and what do you do about it? Is it better that if we ask all 4 questions in a row, or is it better that we ask a question and you answer, the next question comes?
Four of them at one go. So maybe hearing the question on industrial experience.
Вы спросили про специализацию. Сингапур — это очень маленькая страна. У нас очень маленький офис, у нас всего 100 специалистов, и мы можем работать со всеми отраслями, с разными отраслями. У нас 10 аналитиков. Если это какая-то очень узкоспециализированная отрасль.
In terms of industrial experience, our approach is actually we partner with other consultancy firms because they will have the network, they will have the experts in different areas. So for us, the model is slightly different. We don't do everything on our own. We tap on our network, our friends. So I think in the future, so for example, if we have something very specific to maybe oil and gas industry, I believe that one of the best person to consult would be Ross Patent Office. Hello, I'm not sure if you hear my answer.
Спасибо за ответ. Вот у меня есть вопрос.
A question. This is Nikolai Popov. I hope you can hear me. Do you hear me? I liked your presentation, but there is one thing which I want to dwell on. And the question is the following. You said that you have special types of working with Chinese applicants, with Chinese patent applications. For us, it's also a separate area what to do with this huge number of applications in China. Because according to our research, it's like a separate analytical track. We need to have separate conclusions for our customers. Do you have some secrets, some insights in working with Chinese applications?
The Chinese patent applications on its own requires separate analysis because the volume is so huge. So our approach is actually before we form any project team, we make sure that we have a project member who's able to search in native Chinese keywords just to ensure that we are able to capture all the relevant Chinese documents. And Chinese patent applications can be very tricky because their innovation strategy, for example, would be very different from other parts of the world. Sometimes their universities file a lot of patents, and you can see the number is actually maybe there's some kind of incentive given by the government. I shall not comment too much, but we believe there isn't. There's other forces behind the large number. So when we deal with the Chinese patent data, we also often make sure how to sieve out the more important ones from those that are less important. So it's very important to look at other patent measurement indicators to make sure that we sort of like study only the most valuable patents.
Now the question from Fedor Batanov. Thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. My question is the following. You mentioned several times that we need to go outside of working only with patent analytics. How do you do this? How do you go outside of patent sources? And how do you work with non-patent information? How do you combine different types of data eventually?
As a start, we actually subscribe to different business and other databases. So that gives us a lot of information on the market, on the key players, and these are usually not present in the patent data. So that's a good start. Another thing is so based on our experience, you need to talk to your clients a lot because they are the industrial experts. So they are also a good source of information. Last but not least, we have partners. Our networks include other consultancy firms. We actually commission them when we feel that we lack certain industrial input. So we actually pay them to talk to their industrial experts to get the expert opinions, just to make sure that we cover the different angles. So that's how we actually combine patent data with other information. So let me give you one example. We just did one study on graphene. So our clients are very interested in graphene for the use of lithium batteries. So one information that we get from our consultancy partner is actually graphene. The amount of graphene produced in China is actually a lot. We are talking about tons of graphene, but more than half of it are actually used for lithium-ion batteries. So this kind of information, you can never get it in patent data, but these are very good information that tells you that graphene-enhanced lithium-ion batteries are actually already in prototyping in production stage in China.
Now I give the floor to the head of the corporate sales, Andrei Layenko. Jin Kwan, I have a very commercial question. In your presentation and in my presentation, we mostly speak about the fact that patent analytics is used by business communities. All countries are interested in development of their technologies. There are some specific stimulus measures and development institute which are supervised by the government. Do you have some experience with cooperating with the state? Is the government interested in your work, or do you have some proposals for your government? Thank you.
For us, we work very closely with our government agencies. For example, we work very closely with our National Research Foundation. This is actually very common in other countries like Japan, in other regions like Taiwan. So for every major areas that the country is going into, there's always very in-depth, detailed patent analytics study to make sure that they know the landscape very well, they know how to best position themselves. So yes, we do work very closely with our government agencies to help them plan their R&D, and also we also provide consistent, regular updates so that they can consistently, continually adjust their strategies along the way.
Jin Kwan, thank you very much. It was very interesting. We now have a lot of new ideas. We'll discuss them. And we do hope that in 2021 we will be able to hold a global conference on patent analytics. Thank you very much.